Everybody, I'm back after I just finished my 300 movie review. Now I'm going into the sequel, Rise of the Empire, which is not directed by Zack Snyder, but he did the screenplay. Here is directed by Neon Muro. Before we continue, please like and subscribe. Hit that like button. Follow me in link. Follow me in the links in the description below if you enjoy my content and want to further support the channel. Yeah. Continuing on with the Father's Day movie review month. Now 300 Rise of the Empire. We go right into it. There's some reoccurring characters from the previous film. Lena Headey as Hedy as Queen Gergo, Rodrigo Santoro as King Xerxes, Andrew Tiernan as Apheltes, Andrew Pleven as Daxos, uh, uh, and David Winham as Delios. But like I said, this is like a film running parallel slash a sequel to 300. So we're going to be looking through the POV of Themistocles, played by Sullivan Stapleton. We got Eva Green playing Armisticia. Jack O'Connell as Callisto, Hans Mathson as Asiclus, Yigal Noor as King Darius I, the father of Xerxes. So, this time, instead of being narrated by Delios, we now get a narration from Gergo herself, depicting the events on the death of Xerxes' father by Themistocles and his accolades as a warrior and politician, essentially. And this is like, during the early phases of Xerxes, or at least Darius's, campaign and conquering different territories. Themistocles ends up getting off a arrow shot at Darius right in front of Xerxes, and unbeknownst to them, Armistice, or Armistice, I keep wanting to say Artemis, Artemises, is Greek, but she defected to Persia and rose to the ranks of being the top naval commander of Xerxes' army. After some Hippolytes murdered and assaulted her family when she was a little kid, and then of course her, but then she was left alive and disposed of in the streets, where the Persian emissary from the first movie found her, took care of her, trained her, and she grew hatred of her homeland upon what happened to her, and she became one of the most lethal warriors in history. Especially when it comes to like naval battle. It would have been great to see like a Delia's Warrior episode dedicated to like her and some other ancient naval warrior. So after Leonidas fell in battle, we see that Xerxes decapitated his body, and when he sacked Athens, he brandish Leonidas' head, showing like his like mighty godhood and stuff like that. And Themistocles, who was Athenian, decides like, okay, we need to mount up some forces. So he tries to gain aid from Sparta, but when he showed up, Leonidas was already going to meet the oracle at that time, which of course we know that they told him not to engage in battle, or otherwise you will lose, which he did technically. But of course, those Iphors were being bribed anyway. Surprisingly, there was no comeuppance for them. And of course, like being Spartan, Gorgo didn't want to associate it with Athenians because I guess they're very like not secluded, but Spartans want to like it's their borders. We don't want to associate with anybody else. That kind of thing. Don't ask for any help, or don't engage us because we will kill you, kind of thing. So whatever. So Themistocles decides, okay, we'll just fight on our own. He got like a decent amount of warships at his command, so they took on Artemis's fleet, and at first, yeah, they was doing very well, and yeah, I was gonna call her Artemis. Artemis, it's like, oh my god, like I can't count on you guys for nothing. And on top of that, before we get all that, Callisto's dad, one of Themistocles' friends, snuck on board as like a spy, which she spotted fairly quickly because his hands ain't like as callous as the rest of her crew because she works them to the bone. And so he managed to make his escape to tell Themistocles about like what they got planning and what have you. So that was advantageous for their side. But Artemis is like, oh my god, like I can't count any of you. So she kills her first lead commander, her right hand on this battle. And so like, okay, point at somebody else. But she starts to recognize the skills Themistocles has. Is like, that's a real man. I need somebody like that on my side because apparently he's the only one around here that knows how to win battles because I can't count on none of you suckers. So she sends an emissary to like, talk some kind of negotiations or what have you. He comes on board and she tries to seduce him onto her side. And this is probably the most, raunchiest, very like, like hot and heavy type of scene. It's like, almost animalistic, like just like primal sex in a way. And of course, Themistocles, refused to give in to her side. So she told him to get the heck out, get off my boat. Because she was spurned. And so that's when Artemis comes up with a plan where she uses like tar in order to like set ablaze, use her ships to shoot out like some kind of tar, or use like very archaic grenades essentially, or using fire arrows to set ablaze Themistocles' ships, which causes her to like win that particular battle and think like, oh, well, I won, he's dead. But then when of course Callisto's dad ends up getting killed in the process, but uh, Themistocles is rescued from the waters. So there were some survivors, but for all intents and purposes, this battle is Artemis won this battle. So Themistocles had no choice but to retreat back home to Athens to try to gain some further support, hopefully from Sparta this time after word got out about because Daxos comes back to his leader. This is where like he ran off to. He tells Themistocles about how Leonidas and his team were betrayed by one of their own, the deformed Alphiltes, and of course he feels ashamed and he gives Themistocles Leonidas' sword he took off the battlefield. But just like Leonidas, he won't kill this guy because, like, the greatest honor for a Spartan is the glory of a good death, and they will not grant him that. And like, no, you will live, so they'll know you are a bastard traitor. And so, like, he tells, like, go back to Xerxes, tell them, like, we're coming for him at Salamis. Or is it, like, Salamis, right? Salamis. And that's where, like, you see the decisive, you look up in the historical records, like, the Battle of Salamis is, like, the decisive battle between Greece and the Persian army, which obviously the Persian army ultimately lost, and was a decisive win for Greece's part and stopping the Persian invasion. So he ends up going back to Xerxes, telling him and Artemis that Themistocles is actually alive, and he says like meet him at the battle on the sea of Salamis. Themistocles takes the sword back to Sparta to Gorgo, who's mourning the loss of her husband, and he's beseeching her to like spare any forces so that way they can unite. All the Greeks can unite to fight back the Persian army. Of course, she's grieving. She's not offering anything, but we all know it ultimately she's gonna like, oh no, we're gonna help. So Themistocles, get enough forces, and gather some ships, and even though they're numerically inferior to the far superior fleet of ships on Artemis' side, they still like plan on like their ultimate goal is like, okay, we'll ram into the broadside of their ships because they're weak on that part. So and the ship battle is incredible. The cinematography once again is on point. It's very like you're very engaged, and it's an impressive ship battle. And so they're fighting on the ship. Themistocles is riding on a horse, and almost forgot to mention because I think it happened. Yeah, it definitely happened in the first film that I didn't mention there. Impressive one-shot fight scenes, as in very impressive. Sometimes they're like CGI in spots, but still though it is very impressive. So now, of course, Themistocles is losing some men to Artemis and a couple of her elite fighters, but ultimately it comes down to her and Themistocles, and it comes into like a stalemate at this point. But that's when Gorgo and her Spartan forces show up on their fleets, completely outnumbering Artemis's fleet. Knowing that her loss is inevitable, she tries to attack Themistocles. Even though he tells her, like, just surrender, you got no hope here. She just like, I'm not giving up. So she ends up getting stabbed. She dies, and the ending shot with Themistocles and Gorgo and Spartan and Athenian forces, along with Olympia, Delphi, Thebes, and Arcadia. Yeah, and of course Sparta, all come together in these massive fleet to, push back the Persian force. And you want to know what happened with Xerxes? Spoiler alert for historical facts, but he ends up dying seemingly by assassination. There's no concrete conclusion how exactly he died. It wasn't on the field of battle, but it's estimated that he was assassinated probably by his own nephew, who also is named Xerxes and took up leadership, because original Xerxes lost kind of favor to his people, and sometime later, further along in the timeline, Alexander the Great will soon rise up and start conquering a lot of, Greece and Persia territory eventually, which is adapted in the book by Frank Miller, which also, according to recent reports, Zack Snyder has, real adamant thoughts apparently on making a third 300 film based on the rise of Alexander the Great. I think they just calling it Xerxes in the comics, but that's very interesting because Warner Bros. Like a few years ago turned it down around like 2020, I guess because of the pandemic situation. It wasn't bearing fruit, but now it's like it seems like it might be greenlit, or at least in the cups of being greenlit. So I'll be all for that, because it's like, man, that would be very interesting to see. Technically, the conclusion of this kind of trilogy, but just okay, who is his Alexander the Great? How he depicts Xerxes' assassination and his final end, because you gotta probably recast quite a few people. Don't know if he's gonna keep some people. I'm pretty sure a lot of them probably be on board, but it's been so long since this film, which came out in 2014. So literally it's 10 years old. This movie's been 10 years old at this point. Wow. And it had a budget of 110 million, but rated at the box office as 337 million. Slightly less than what the previous film did, but still very impressive irregardless. Just hopefully, they don't balloon the budget out the wazoo. Just be reasonable with the budget. But yeah, I'm all for it. If he actually makes another 300 film, I'll be in the theater to go see it. I really want to check out that one. As a matter of fact, I really want to see what's up with the comics. I never read the Frank Miller 300 comics before, but that'll be kind of interesting to cover for the channel. And I haven't gotten around to it, but put on the list of, out of the box comics that I want to review based on video games, like speaking of Sparta, the God of War comics, and a couple other video game based comics I want to cover for the channel at some point in the future. I don't know when, but yeah, that was pretty quick. But like I said, cinematography is impressive. I try to cover as much historical facts in these reviews so you'll know, like, how different it was from the film. But like I said, you can easily look it up in various components or check out like History Hit. That's where I go, where I want to learn about certain historical stuff with these historians, so you can look up about the whole Greco-Persian War and what's going on with Leonidas and the Spartan army and the Persian army and things like that. So you have like some knowledge there. But anyway, that was kind of quick. I just want to make sure like I got all the 300 films. Hopefully there will be a third one. I can cover that. But it's been fun. I really wanted to get back and rewatch these films. And I think Father's Day, or at least the month of celebrating fathers, I think it's like very like some action oriented, testosterone filled type of dad films. 300 was like, okay, it had to be on the list. But anyway, that was 300 Rise of the Empire. And it was kind of quick, but next week it'll be another back-to-back film because I want to cover the sequel as well. And it's going to be Lion King and the Lion King 2. Because in terms of fathers, that is very father-heavy type of films. But anyway, I'll see you guys tomorrow as I'll be getting into Destiny 2 again, playing the new expansion. So look forward to that. And I'll see you guys next time. And I might pop in for some multiverses, maybe, if I'm not feeling too tired. But don't quote me on that. But anyway, have a great time have a great rest of your evening. Hopefully I'll see you guys tomorrow. But if not, have a great weekend. Take care. I'll see you all soon. Peace.